Thank you. Yes, it's pouring a rain once more. And it's a great opportunity to just point out a few little things that certainly I've learnt over 30 plus years of driving, which, let's face facts, they may not actually always tell you in your driving school. So here's a few little tips and tricks for those of you who have just passed your test, my lovely daughter being just one of them. She's pretty speedy and it's easy to get complacent out there. So please be safe, especially if you've got a rear-wheel drive car with the amount of torque that this thing has. And it's a little bit like just coming out of uni, going straight into a job thinking you're going to be great. But reality is, you've only just started and you really don't know anything. No disrespect. So I'll give you a few little handy hints, especially for those that just passed their test. When you're driving in the rain and you need to be safe, please be safe. So firstly, looking up here, on the right-hand side, we got a lot of standing water. It's a bit of a flash flood at the moment. Going through that at any sort of speed, you're going to find that the wheels will pull towards that water. It will grab the steering wheel as if somebody has literally sat in the car next to you and pull you in. But you can imagine at speed, that's going to be dangerous. Also, there's cars up ahead here, which I couldn't see because there was a slight brow of a hill. And likewise, further up, I'm looking way ahead. Always make sure that you can look as far ahead as possible. There's a brow of a hill coming up. I've just observed the 40-mile-an-hour sign. You've got speed camera warnings here, and if you have a look, this is dropping down to 30 mile an hour, and there's a little sort of yellow, almost green box around that. Now, not many people tell you this, and in fact, they don't even tell you this in the highway code. But just up ahead on the left-hand side, we're looking at what they call one of these stealth cameras. It's a yellow camera that's going to pick up if you haven't got your seatbelt on, if you're driving over the speed limits. If you're not paying attention, if you're on your mobile phone, it will do all of those things without you knowing. Now, going back to that 30-mile-an-hour sign with the yellow box around it, that actually means there's been a fatality there. And there's been a number of fatalities to warrant having that stealth camera. Now, there's cars here just slowing down because they're turning right. So I'm looking in my mirror, making sure there's enough gap behind me to the people on my left, and now I'm going to move back into this middle lane because I'm going straight on. And those are the sorts of things that you've got to be quick at doing. Now, I could have just moved out to the left, and the guy in the mirror behind me, he may not have actually been that far back, and I could have ended up going into the side of him. And as you start to drive and you get experience with doing these things, that becomes second nature. But initially, when you've just passed your test, it very much isn't. And in fact, if I'm looking over here at that mirror and I'm looking back at this mirror, quite often you end up swerving on the road, and that's just down to experience. I promise you, you will get better. And over time, you will find that you'll look in your mirrors pretty much, I would say, every 2 or 3 seconds. And that's literally just out of habit because you realize just how important that they are. So way up ahead, there's somebody crossed the road there. I know that this is an area that people like to go to the shops, and there's a guy on a Deliveroo bike. You've got to watch out for that because your braking distance in the wet reduces right down. But here's the ironic thing, is that the braking distance in the UK was actually governed by a very old car. It's going to kind of squeeze through here. And the braking distance of this old car was actually really poor. Reality is you can brake a lot better than the highway code in the UK states that you need. But it doesn't matter. They are laws and you need to abide to them. So you need to make sure that you give yourself enough distance from the car in front. I'm going to talk about braking later on. There's a difference between just putting your foot on the pedal and loading up the brake, but that's going to be in a future video. Now, I know that there's cars up ahead on the right-hand side that will probably be turning at the lights. So I'm going to move myself over, check my mirrors into this left lane here. And likewise, the guy in the Volkswagen has done that also. I'll just give him a little flash just to allow him to move over. But a lot of people may not be from the area that you're in. And always remember that, because there's no point me trying to close up the gap for the person in front it's not fair on that person. He might not be from this town and he might not have known that there's cars turning up ahead. So a lot of times I've found when you're driving in your local area, people seem to think that we all should know every single road out there and what the situation is. Not everybody has that knowledge on the road as you do, remember. There's a guy there trying to sneak in on the left. Let's watch what this Range Rover does. He's going to realise, there you go, I'm going to let him go. Maybe he'll just give me a little flash out of courtesy back. There you are, no problem at all. There was no hardship done there. He perhaps didn't know that the guy was turning right. Everyone's happy. There's no point in closing up those gaps there. There's a lot of people that do that, but it's actually dangerous. And then it just leads to a little bit of road rage. Life is too short. So if you just passed your test driving in the rain, there's a lot of things that you have to contend with, which is quite different to driving in the dry. Also, if it's only just been raining, whilst there's been a prolonged period of dry weather, this is something else that perhaps you don't realise if you're driving for the first time. So I've just passed a petrol station there. Trucks and lorries and vans and cars come out. Quite often, a lot of the diesel will actually come out of the filler cap. That then goes onto the road and it can make it very slippy. So always be mindful of corners, roundabouts, anything near a petrol station where somebody could have come out with a full tank. Because as you start to turn onto a corner, that oil which is on the road from the diesel can cause your car to slip. Now I need to be in this right hand side lane here. I've got two options. Right, decision made. I'm going to speed up, put my indicators on. And I've moved in there. I'm actually now going to press my little hazard to say thank you. And we're all good. My brakes are on at the moment. I've got an automatic. Now you can use the gears to tab down and slow yourself down. I can knock it down. It's called Tiptronic. You can do it like that. Or you can use the paddle shifts if you got them on your steering wheel as well. But using your gears to slow the car down, on you go, is actually a good way to A, save your brake pads, and B, it actually is more controllable because the car hasn't got as much inertia because the engine is braking via the gears. Now we're coming up to a tunnel here. You can see that it says 30 mile an hour. And up above, you've now got a gantry showing the height, which is 4.5 meters or 15 foot. And then up above again, you've now got another sign saying 30 mile an hour with the yellow, and there's a red and a black car. What that actually meant was you're not supposed to overtake. And there's a double white line in the middle here, which is indicating that you don't cross your lane. You stay in the lane that you're on. If I look down, I'm struggling to do 30. I've got my foot on the brake now to bring it back down to 30 mile an hour. That's because I'm going downhill. Likewise, as I start to increase up this incline here, then you start to increase the power and you get yourself back up to 30 mile an hour. Now on this corner here, the cambers are being lent towards the central reservation. That basically means that the road is banked. As I go round this corner, I can feel that the left-hand side is lower down than the right, and it's slightly tipped. That then helps you get round that corner without slipping. But I know full well that further up, there is actually a corner that goes the opposite way with negative camber. Always looking in the mirrors, making sure that there's nothing behind me, because quite often people will cut down the left lane and maybe try and cut in front of you. You've got to be mindful of that. There's a bit of standing water there, so I'm going to move slightly over because it will pull my wheel in and pull me towards that curb, especially with the fact that my car sits quite low. So I'm just indicating left here, and this particular corner, definitely the angle of the camber, it's going the opposite way. And I've got a rear-wheel drive car. It's very easy for me to slip out on this. You can see that it leans the wrong way on this road and it gets very greasy. I can feel the back. Now just here, even though you can't really see it, there's a slightly different color of tarmac. It's slightly lighter in color, albeit slightly worn out. That's called shell grip, and it's basically like a sandpaper. They put that down on purpose to give you more traction. We're now moving into an average speed camera in the UK of 40 mile an hour. That means that from the point of entry to the point of exit, if you do more than 40 mile an hour, you're gonna get a ticket. And there's two schools of thought. You can either do 30 mile an hour and then put your foot down and do 50, so that the average speed in total becomes 40 mile an hour. But I'm only joking. Reality is you're supposed to do 40 mile an hour and stay at 40 mile an hour from the point of entry to the point of exit. So there you go, it's a bit of an ad hoc video for you. Just a few tips as I'm driving along that came to mind, that if you were sitting in the passenger seat next to me, I would perhaps be telling you, if you're a new driver, just to be mindful of, because a lot of these situations actually only become apparent as you start to drive. So as the opportunity comes along, I'll do more of these types of videos. There's loads more that I can give. And in fact, different parts of the country, there's different types of driving that you adopt. I'm in a city at the moment, and that's a different type of driving to what would be in the country. Likewise, it's a different type of driving for a different car. This is a rear-wheel drive car, and there's a hell of a lot of torque. It's a 3.7 litre engine, but I also have a little Honda Civic, which has got half the size of engine, and it's front-wheel drive. And therefore, there's little differences and tips on driving a front-wheel drive car compared to a rear-wheel drive car. But we'll get to that. So thanks for coming along, keeping me company during this little trip, and I'll see you next time on the little drive-by. Drive-by. I haven't got an AK-45 in the back, but you know what I mean. Why do we call it that? Okay. Groove On's drive-bys. I don't know how well that will go down on YouTube. I'll see you next time.